Morning everyone, welcome back to the site. Going to give you a little update here on my safety and how that went. It was a typical Saskatchewan government insurance inspection. It took about 2.5 hours and had a real good chat with the mechanic that was doing it. Good thing he's a hot rod friendly guy, and I'll just show you what we found and go from there. So for the most part everything was really good. I had a couple of issues he wanted me to look after. One of them we took care of right there. The brake hose here was just touching the airbag, and to fix it all I had to do was take, oh there goes my light, and bend the bracket that holds the flex line to the steel line slightly to the driver's side, and it moved the hose away from the airbag, so that was no big deal. I think I'm losing a bulb here. So, and the other issue we couldn't take care of at the time, which was a bit of a piss off to say the least. Anyhow, the issue is, and again, a lot of you are probably going to run into the same issue if your inspector is as thorough as mine was. Something never occurred to me, but all the wheels on OE cars, the big three, when they come, they're called, the wheels fit Lug Centric. And what that means is that the center hole in the wheel is a precision fit on either the rotor or the axle, as you can see back here. Any aftermarket aluminum wheels you buy are not, they don't come, Lug Centric is the way they call them, but they're supposed to come with either an aluminum or a poly ring that adjusts the diameter, the inside diameter of the wheel to the outside diameter of your axle or your hub. And it's up to your tire dealer to supply those. They'll probably charge you extra. Some of them don't worry about it. And what they're doing is relying on the wheel nuts in the studs to hold the wheel in the center. Now, I did a ton of research on this. About 5 hours. It's been driving me nuts looking this all up to find out what the difference is. And these wheels are a Series 14 Genie wheel from Wheel Vaniques. I've been on the phone to them, and they have lots of literature on their site, but nothing specific to Lug Centric, which is the wheel lugs and nuts holding the wheel centered, as compared to Lug Centric. All they'll say is, yes, they're Lug Centric, but they don't tell you why they built them that way. So, from what I've read, for low-speed applications, garden tractors, small utility trailers, they don't care about Lug Centric because the loads are small and usually the speed is low. But on a car, what the wheel lugs are intended to do is only hold the wheel to the face of the rotor or the axle to transmit your torque to the wheel, not to absorb road shocks. So if you're got terrible roads like we have here in Saskatchewan, and there's potholes and ridges in the highways, every time you hit one of those, it's driving up on the lugs that are designed only to pull the wheel in, and eventually what will happen is it'll start to bend your lugs and your wheel will get off center and you'll get vibrations. Also puts a lot of undue stress on the wheels. Now, if you look up Lug Centric rings, On the internet, you're going to find there is all kinds of them out there. The better quality ones are made out of aluminum, but most of the aftermarket magnesium or aluminum wheels that come out, they're using a poly ring. It's just a plastic ring that's machined. And in the backside of an aluminum wheel, there's a little bit of a chamfer. And those rings slide into that chamfer, and that locks them in and stops them from falling out. Well, on a steel wheel, because it's only 3/16 of an inch thick at the most, which these ones are, they're a heavy wheel, there's no chamfer built into that. So there's nothing to retain the ring. So looking at this, and I can order some custom-made aluminum ones online. They're about $100 US, 170 Canadian by the time I get them. And it could take 30 to 40 days to get them. So I figured there's got to be a better way to do this, and a faster way. So I did a bunch of measuring and everything on my wheels, and what I found is the gap is 13/64. I just took a drill bit. I used my numbered set until I found the one that was exactly the right size, and it's the same front to rear. So it fits in there perfectly. See, now we got an issue. This wheel has been on and off probably a dozen times, and it is not centered. It is off center slightly. So that's going to give me a bit of a vibration. And this is why the inspector wouldn't pass it. I have to get this fixed before he'll pass it. Now, on the other side of the car, we'll just run over here. I've come up with a way to fix this myself that's not going to cost me $170, and it's not going to take 40 days. So if you can see here, I have manufactured a 13/64 aluminum ring that is a quarter of an inch thick, and I have centered the wheel, put that on, and glued it to my rotor with JB weld. That's now a permanent Lug Centric centered wheel. I did the same on the back, but because the rotors on the rear slide onto the axle, I've made them tight enough so that I pressed the ring onto the axle stub with a slight interference, so it will come off, and it centers the wheel perfectly. Now you're probably asking, how the heck did I make those? Well, I don't have a lathe, and I don't have any way to turn the steel, let alone some 81 millimeter thick steel so that I could make these things. So what I've done is I've taken some 1/4 inch high quality aluminum. I got some, I think it's 1 1/4 wide by 1/4 inch thick that I got from my brother. Using my drill bit, which I laid down somewhere, I set my table saw up at exactly 13/64 of an inch, and I use a 42 tooth carbide tip micro thin cut blade in my table saw. And you have to make sure when you're cutting on your table saw with this, wear all your proper PPE. I wear safety glasses as well as a face shield because it throws little bits of aluminum everywhere. I run my piece of aluminum through, and it gives me a perfect 13/64 strip of 1/4 inch aluminum, which I then take and I shape it around one of my English wheel mandrels, which is almost the perfect size, and then weld the ends together and clean them up, dress them up, and put them on. So I'll come back in a little bit here and show you the process on how I made those rings, and just something you guys might want to consider when you're looking at your wheels and how they're mounting there. So I'll be back in a bit, guys. Okay guys, we're set up here. Just going to cut these two pieces I need for the passenger side. And like I said, make sure you got all your PPE on. I'm not going to cut these all the way through. I'm going to cut them just about to the end so I don't end up with a missile here. Stop it there, flip it over, cut the other one. Yeah, there's my two pieces. I just have to finish off the end cuts on them here, and then I can start bending them. Bring you back again in a sec. Okay, so I have my two strips that I dressed up on the belt sander. I've got my mandrel from my English wheel here that I'm using for bending my circle, and a stop on the edge here to allow me to turn it. I'm keeping the cut side against the hubs. Stick this in. Just work it around. So the first bend only gets me part way around. Takes a little bit of screwing around, but seems to work pretty good. So it tends to want to spring back on you quite a bit. So what I do is I overlap it like this, and then I can straighten it out later, end up with a really nice circle. Then what I'm going to do is work the circle together till I have the right diameter by test fitting it in the car. Everything's overlapped, and then I buzz it in the center here at the right diameter and weld it together. What I'm going to do is just slowly work it till I get my 81 millimeters outside dimension, and we should be golden. I'll bring you back once I get this shaped and ready to weld. So now I have my ring all shaped. I have it inside a hose clamp, and I've marked the two where they intersect here to give me my 73.4 or 70.4 millimeter inside diameter. I will now cut the ends off so that I can butt it up together, true it up on the hub, and then I'll weld it. Okay guys, I have the ring made up. It's not ready to weld yet. And trying to put it in here, this wheel is off center enough that the ring won't go in on the bottom side here. So I'm just going to loosen the wheel off, push the ring in, and then snug the wheel back up here. You saw it off there. Disconnect that. Push this ring in. My wheel now fits really nice. Grab my ratchet. And I'm just going to snug this down a bit. Just to make sure that the ring is centered. Looks good. That's now holding the wheel exactly where it's supposed to be. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a feeler gauge to find out the gap between my ends here, so I can set it up and do a weld on it. Now I want it fairly snug, so even if I have to take just a smidge out of the center, I'll be okay with that. So there we go guys. I'll bring you back here once the fit's complete. Okay, I have this tapped in tight against the rotor. I have my clamp tight. I'm now going to remove the assembly. The clamp will probably come off first. I will leave the adjustment on the clamp where it is, and then I'll put the aluminum ring into the clamp and do the inside tack weld first, let that cool, remove the clamp, and then I'll do the outside tack weld, and we'll have a finished centric ring there. So, okay guys, it's my finished ring installed. It has to be tapped on with a punch. It fits so snug so that it won't walk its way out of the wheel. I'll just set the wheel on here now. Whoa, sorry about that. We now have a Hub Centric, Lug Centric wheel. Just give this a snug. Oop, don't even have you in the right spot basically. This should now make the inspector happy. So I can't get back to Swift Current to have it checked until I believe it's the 12th of May. I found out the day after that the mechanic's daughter has COVID, and he's at home self-quarantining for 2 weeks. I guess he tested negative. I'm sure glad that I already had my shot. Okay guys, there you have it. Don't let anybody tell you you can't make something or solve all the problems yourself. So I'm going to carry on, get the other front one made and call her good and see how it drives. I did have a little bit of a vibration, and it very possibly could have been this back wheel here. So anyhow, guys, thanks for tuning in. Hope that helped you a little bit, and we'll see you on the next one.